our viewers, thank you so much for watching. We've loved bringing you great professionals for the last 6 years and counting. And these professionals have been great in educating us on what's going on in the professional industry because I value bringing professionals and I value bringing people who have real information that we can learn from. Today, I have with you Justin Rochester. Justin, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to speak on such an important career and profession.
Awesome. Justin is a paralegal, our viewers, and is also a paralegal educator in the GTA. And I thought I'll bring him because I have seen that there's a big misunderstanding between what paralegals do and what lawyers do. I've also seen some conflict, right? That comes out openly on LinkedIn because I'm very active on LinkedIn. And so I decided, let Justin tell us the difference. And the reason why I brought you, Justin, it's because I saw you approaching this from an educational perspective than from combative perspective. I think fights don't solve problems. We all know that, right? Mediation, education solves problems, and that's why I reached out to you. So I would like to ask you, first of all, to introduce yourself before you became a paralegal, before you tell us about why you educate paralegals. Who are you? Who is Justin Rochester? Please go ahead.
Thank you again very much, Lucy, for having me. So, yes, as you said, Justin Rochester, I'm a licensed paralegal. I've been licensed for 10 years. We are at the forefront of this experiment that is called paralegal licensing. It allows for a great increase in access to justice. Prior to my career as a paralegal, I did a lot of construction work. I was somewhat of a troubled youth. I got into trouble a lot. High school was not a time that I shone the brightest as far as my potential, but I was able to pivot in my life thanks to a program called Second Career, which is a government program that allows for individuals to re-enter the workforce in a new area because their previous work career or profession is no longer either viable or they then themselves are not viable within it. And thankfully, I was able to grab hold of that life raft that was Second Career and pivot my life into more productivity and to more meaning as far as my contributions to society and to myself. And so after that, I kind of never looked back, and I've been continually moving forward. I practice or provide legal services, I should say, in the criminal law field. I've been doing that since the beginning. I also do some provincial offenses work. I've done civil once or twice, not really my favorite area of law, to be quite honest with you. Criminal law is where I have rested my bones, and I intend to stay here as long as I provide legal services.
That is great. And Justin, so then are you saying that you decided to do a criminal law just because you saw yourself in that area and you wanted to help others so they don't get into that situation? Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct. A lot of my work is actually reaching backwards towards, high crime neighborhoods or those who are overrepresented in the criminal justice system, and providing my services to them as a paralegal at an affordable cost, with a competency that allows for them to trust within my work and get the best outcomes for my clients. And a lot of those individuals, I see myself, and I figure if I could be that pivot point in their life, then perhaps I'm giving back to the universe that gave so willingly to me.
Thank you. And so then, Justin, you have been doing this paralegal work for the last almost 10 years from what I saw you posting on LinkedIn, which is great.
Thank you.
And so you are doing criminal work. What disparities or differences did you see between what paralegals are doing and lawyers are doing, and what made you decide to come out on LinkedIn and start explaining? I think what really attracted me was when you said they are not just a paralegal, right? And
Yes.
I was like, yes, you can't go to college and be licensed by the Law Society and then
Yeah.
be called just. So
Yeah.
please
No.
tell us what you saw.
So when I first started, I was with a lawyer called John Struthers. He's a very well-known criminal defense lawyer. He was the president of the CLA for some time. before health reasons had caused him to step down. And so my approach has always been one founded in knowledge and experience and wisdom provided from those before us that allow us to essentially entrench ourselves within the battle of law, but well found with well armed and ready to move forward. And so I would see a lot of online debate and back and forth between lawyers and paralegals, myself included. When I first started, I wanted to be a lawyer, and to be quite honest, there's still that pathway available to me. But the paralegal pathway was so much more obtainable. It was so much more affordable. And as I said before, second career was funding. Uh, One of the career fields was to become a paralegal, and so I grabbed a hold of that, and that kind of allowed my entry into the law world. And so it became quite apparent to me when I first entered, all the way back in 2016. Oh my goodness, that time flies. That there was a lot of misconceptions as far as how paralegals saw lawyers and how lawyers saw paralegals. Some lawyers from the old school were quite disturbed by the idea of individuals entering the legal profession without all the rigorous education that comes with becoming a lawyer. But thankfully, I was able to establish a name for myself in the criminal field, which is probably one of the most um, uh, the largest voices pushing back against the regulation of paralegals. And I was able to make a name and build respect for myself through good advocacy, through showing up, through doing the things necessary to prove that I belonged at this table, and I belonged, and I deserved a seat at that table, which allowed me for 7 years to go quietly on and building that reputation. And then one day I just decided to say, you know what? I'm now getting into the educational space. I want to educate not only my students, but the profession as a whole. How can I impart my knowledge and my experience to the discourse to allow for it to be more of a refined discussion about access to justice and not about, sides or taking of sides, but more so the idea that we have, much like I liken it a lot to nurses and doctors. Doctors are general, some of them are general practitioners, some of them are specialists, but nurses do tasks and duties that are essential to healthcare that most doctors either have no longer decided to be trained on and or don't have the time to do. And so those nurses become quite important in the medical, in the medical field. And I feel like paralegals resemble that quite a bit in the sense that we alleviate a lot of the backlog in the courts, a lot of the access to justice issues. And I truly believe that the regulation of paralegals is the answer to the great access to justice question, right? It allows for a different stream of individuals to come in who are well trained and competent in their field and their scope and provide individuals in the public with access to justice and competent legal representation, which is essential across the board. So I feel like the more knowledgeable paralegals are, the more competent and the more we show up and do our job, the more likely it is that that debate would be quashed. And that's been my work so far.
And I like what you're saying, comparing what you do with nurses and doctors. And there's a
Mhm.
lot of cohesiveness in that area. Doctors know their boundaries, nurses know their boundaries,
That's
and they
right.
work very well together. I don't believe there's one who can complete their process without the other one. And I see the same
Agreed.
with the bookkeepers and accountants,
Yep.
right? They work very cohesively. So for a long time, Justin, I've always asked myself, why is there a conflict between paralegals and lawyers? And
Yeah.
so I think we need more people like you who can actually bring that cohesiveness, that friendliness, because there are things lawyers will not do, and so they can pass them on to you. There are things you can't do, and you pass them on to them. I mean, the public should see friendship, cohesiveness, professionalism, and that's why I'm bringing you here. And I hope that's the message you pass as you train paralegals. But I want to
Mhm.
ask you then, just going back to nurses and doctors. So,
Mhm.
what are things that paralegals can do, and
Mhm.
what are things that they can't do? I've
For
seen
sure.
a lot of fights about saying that they want to do family law, they want to do immigration, they want to do real estate law. Why are there limitations? What is it that they can't do, and what can they do? Clear this to the public so we know now.
For sure. So. realistically, the paralegal scope is actually quite extensive if you really look at it. For instance, we can provide legal services in criminal courts for things called summary offenses. So these are offenses that have 2 years less a day as far as jail time considerations and $5,000 in fine or damages that are or that are incurred. So, for instance, if in damages case, mischief under 5,000, theft under 5,000, um, fraud under 5,000 would be examples of charges that can be elected to be summarily assaults and things of that nature. And so paralegals step in and provide adequate legal services for those who may not be able to afford a lawyer in that regard. Paralegals can also do small claims court, civil court, which has just recently raised its damages awards to $50,000. When I first started, it was 25. It went up to 35, and now it's 50. There is a large contingent of individuals who believe that's going to go to 100,000, which I think is a fair representation for small claims. Um, we do administrative tribunals, so things like most boards, landlord and tenant boards, and any other tribunal that argues licensing, or for instance, the workmen's compensation board and things of that nature. We do a great deal of things, right? And so paralegals and lawyers tend to have a more extensive scope. They do more serious matters, obviously, in criminal courts. They do indictable matters as well as summaries as well. And I should also say paralegals have provincial offenses court as well, which is a wide swath of different um, areas and regulative statutes and things of that nature. And lawyers, as I said, have a more expanded scope, which I think reflects properly their level of education, the level of dedication that they put into their studies and their preparation to become a lawyer. I will say, though, paralegals have 1 year, 2 year, and 4 year programs. Depending on the college that you attend. And so our education is starting to resemble a lot of what the lawyers prepare for. We do a lot more, I would say, uh, practice-based knowledge in college. We do a lot more hands-on and whereas lawyers do a lot of theoretical study, we do a lot of practical studying, which I think is great because it prepares us properly for the level of competency and areas that we will be represented individuals in. So there's a clear difference as far as education, as far as scope between paralegals and lawyers, and I think it's correct. I think we got it right. I think it's important to have lawyers represent more serious matters, and I think paralegals can alleviate both our lawyer colleagues and the courts by providing services in less serious matters.
Wonderful. And I know, Justin, you know that my son is paralegal is actually going to be licensed. He's just done the exams and is working at Mackenzie Lake Lawyers in Guelph. I'm happy they hired him there. Um, I would like him to be like you, right? To be
Thank
professional, to work with the other professionals without a fight. And I actually told him to follow you. I hope he's following you. I
Oh,
told
I
him, feel
appreciate
free
that.
to even message Justin and say, I've told you to connect with him. I've
Yeah, no,
even told my son to get into all what you are doing, Paralegal Townhalls or whatever it is. But let me
thank you.
ask you, you have been in the industry for almost 10 years and you
Yes.
are employed at some point. What made you decide to become self-employed? And
Yeah.
what skills do you think paralegals need to actually become self-employed?
Yeah, so I think the answer to both those questions starts with understanding that you don't know everything. I think I always say the wisest man or woman knows what they do not know best and first. That is important. So you understand your boundaries and then work towards educating yourself in that regard. When I first stepped into my own sole practitioner role, I was able to orient myself based on everything I've learned prior. And so I would say to anybody looking to do your own, go step it on your own and do your own business, to first ensure that you are anchored in knowledge and experience provided by those before you. I liken it a lot to apprenticeships, plumbing, electrician, mechanics. You can learn a whole lot going to school for these different trades, but the reality of the job and the different nuances of the job come through mentorship and through apprenticeship. And I feel like the law should resemble that a lot more. We do placements, for instance, for paralegals. They just went up to, I believe, 240 hours. So you get a good 4 to 6 weeks. Sorry, 6 weeks as opposed to the four. And law students do articling, and some are articling and things of that nature. So there, that aspect is kind of built into it. But I feel like more is needed in this regard because a lot of what I learned about being a paralegal came from going to court and practicing. It wasn't really entrenched enough in the actual study aspect of our preparations, although it did arm us with the ability to think critically and prepare ourselves for the difficulties that it is to represent individuals before courts or hearings or tribunals. But I feel like if I could give one piece of advice, it would be to find a senior lawyer or a paralegal, latch onto them, absorb as much information as possible, be humble, and learn. And then once you're in a position where you are comfortable in your own skin and you have oriented yourself as far as your own voice, then I feel like it's a good time to step out and start your own practice.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Justin. And so you have gone a little bit further, not a little bit, so much further in one, educating paralegals in colleges, 3 colleges. You have gone ahead to do your own practice. You've gone ahead to share on LinkedIn. We are learning, even those of us who are not in the legal industry. But you also started Paralegal Townhall with JP. I
Yes.
know JP very well. He actually invited me to speak to paralegals. That's how I started get to know paralegals. So you started the Paralegal Town Hall. Tell
Yes.
us more about that and what you're planning to achieve with that. I know you have a great vision for it. Do you think it's going to be self-regulating, like LSO or something like that? You tell us the truth,
Yeah.
Justin.
So we have no delusions of such grandeur. The LSO has its place in our profession, and I believe it's a well-suited place as far as our regulator. We have advocacy groups like the Ontario Paralegal Association. I think they do what they need to do. Our endeavor is quite pure. It's just the idea that we want to provide a space for paralegals to meet, to gain knowledge and experience through each other, and to have a place that they can network and feel safe and feel heard and feel validated in. And so when they leave whatever it is we're putting on, they feel that much more confident in their role. And as I said before, that confidence, that experience, that wisdom only creates better paralegals. So my goal is to only facilitate a ground in which paralegals can meet, can learn, can facilitate knowledge and experience sharing, and then as a result, be that much better in the field. If I had one hope, it would be every paralegal is as competent and as dedicated to the job as the one prior to them. And it's important for me to cultivate that atmosphere and environment. And I feel like the Paralegal Town Hall, which, as you said, I started with JP Rodriguez, is the realization of that hope. We in no way want to become anything more than a place where knowledge is provided. We do things like networking events. We do a lot of CPDs, which for the audience who may not be legally trained, is a requirement by the Law Society that legal practitioners are up to date and current on all things going on in the law, especially in the areas in which they provide services in. And so CPDs are pre-recorded or live webcasts or in-person events where industry leaders or experienced individuals, both paralegals and lawyers, sit down and discuss the current state of things in their respective fields, which allows for those who are observing to become up to date and knowledgeable in that field as well. And so we put on those. We also put on the actual town hall, which is a gathering of many paralegals into many different breakout sessions discussing many different topics. So as I said, by the time you leave one of our events, you feel that much more ready to engage the profession and you feel that much more comfortable in your skin. And there's one thing that I like to impart into people is that aha moment, right? It's the feeling of finally understanding something is so freeing. The idea of a weight being lifted off your chest is a real thing. And when you provide somebody with knowledge and guidance that they understand finally something that they didn't grasp fully before, that's my main satisfaction point where it's just like I love watching people have that aha moment because it was the turning point in my own life when I said, aha, I now know what I want to do. And the stress and weight of that unknown was removed from me and my path was made clear and it became as clear as a bright light at the end of a tunnel. I was walking forward, and that's the only way I was walking.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Justin, for that. So then, with all the things that you're doing, the town hall, I like it. I've already told my son to jump on that. I've told him to message you if he asks. I'll keep insisting. I can't force him, but I can be the nagging mother saying that you need to be talking to Justin.
Thank you.
So let me ask you then, with all the things you're doing, you have your own practice, and I'm sure it's ambitious practice. You have the town hall. You are actually a professor in 3 colleges. Talk to us
Yes.
about time management, and you have to go to court. Talk to
Yeah.
us about time management because many people struggle with time management,
Yes.
and maybe one day I'll even come here. We talk with you in deeper details about time management. How do you manage all that and balance it?
Yeah. So like anything else, it's a skill that you have to kind of hone and sharpen on your own. When people read out my resume or my current, plate load, it feels like a lot, but I've made efforts to ensure that I have um, plotted my weeks or my days so that I have family time. It's very important that paralegals and lawyers make time for family and friends. I always tell my students, please make sure that you make time to go see that movie, make time to go see friends and have a drink, or go watch, or go watch a movie at the movie theater, or go to Dave and Buster's and play some games and have some fun. Right? It's the point is that burnout is real in this profession. And if you're only working and you forget about why you're who or what you're working for, you tend to be more likely to have that burnout moment and kind of and that would be it for you. So for me personally, I know it seems like a lot, but 3 colleges, it's 1 or 2 courses a day, so it's about 3 to 6 hours of my day. I attend courts usually in the morning time. I usually set my matters to my schedule, knowing where I have to be. The town hall stuff I do on the fly in the evenings or on the weekends when I have time. And to be quite honest with you, the way in which we operate is we don't need all these different meetings. We don't need all these different, restrictive time commitments. We essentially trust each other, myself and JP. And when we have an idea, we say, look, this is my idea. And he says, great. And I says, all right, I'm going to execute it. And he says, perfect. And then we both sign off on the finished product and we put it out. And I feel like that has allowed for us to kind of intertwine the paralegal town hall business within our own lives because JP as well is a very busy guy. He does duty counsel. He teaches at 3 or 4 colleges as well. And so we kind of work very well together in that regard as far as understanding what our time limitations are and why it's important for the paralegal town hall to not become cumbersome, but to become an expression of our hopes and dreams for the profession. And so I would say to anybody, please make sure that you're making time for yourself. Mental health is a real thing. It's like an elastic band. You never know that it's becoming a problem. It quietly, expands, and then one day it releases and it snaps, and it harms your brain and it harms your physical health. So please make sure that you remember why you're doing this, who you're doing it for. Don't bring your hard day home, right? Leave it at the door. Your partner and your family don't deserve the stress and anxiety that you've gone throughout the day. As soon as I open that door and I see my son's 2-year-old face running towards me, it all melts away and it makes it all worth it again. And it reorients why I do all of this. So take on what you can responsibly. Part of competence is understanding your limitations, is understanding that too much on your plate is not a good thing. And also practice humility in the sense that it's okay sometimes to say no. You don't have to be a part of everything, but the things that are important to you, make time for.
Wonderful. Thank you for that, Justin. But I wanted to ask you, because my focus is still the relationship between lawyers and paralegals.
Yes.
I've seen that in some of your town halls, you're inviting lawyers to come and speak to paralegals.
Yes.
I've also seen that there are paralegals that take law clerk positions.
Mhm.
Somebody has gone through college, they know they can go to small claims court and fight for 50,000 now, but they agree to take a law clerk position. Do you think that's why lawyers view paralegals as law clerks? And what relationship are you trying to bring? Because I've seen you bringing lawyers to speak to them. Maybe you're also trying to educate lawyers that these are people who can defend 50,000. They are not necessarily
Yeah.
law clerks. That's why you're
Yeah.
saying they are not just paralegal. You tell
Yes.
us the relationship there.
So I'll start off with why I cultivate those relationships. I think it's very important that we meet with lawyers and judges. I bring judges as well to these events so that those both parties can see each other in that element. So individuals, for instance, we did a mooting competition, which is a legal competition that essentially argues an appeal before the higher court than the Canadian Supreme Court, which is funny in itself. But and we had it mixed with paralegal students and undergraduate law students, as well as we had actual judges and lawyers and all these individuals be judges for those rounds. And what I wanted to do was show certain lawyers and judges that paralegals are just as capable of legal research, of oral advocacy, as those who are attending law school or who are undergraduates before law school. And so that has created this great community of individuals with mutual respect. I always say that a mutual beneficial relationship tends to last the longest. And so the paralegal field and the lawyer field are actually mutually beneficial. They rhyme, right? There's a lot of overlap that we can work together in. When I first started, John Struthers was one of the individuals who I would say didn't exactly enjoy the idea of paralegals being regulated or licensed. He was one of those detractors who thought maybe, look, we are lowering the bar, and that's not necessarily how we access or grant access to justice. But I think through me and through my work, I've kind of opened his eyes, and he became more and more trusting in the profession through the work that I've done. And so it's important that each individual paralegal realizes the role they play in our profession, that every single time you do the job correctly, every single time you make good submissions in front of a judge, every single time you follow the procedures and rules properly and observe them correctly, you create a new vision of what a paralegal can be for the individual that is observing you, whether that's a judge or a crown attorney or a prosecutor or a counsel from across the other side. So when we do these things together at these different events, I like to cultivate that environment so individuals understand that we are of the same community, of the same ilk, and we can learn from each other, and then we can gather with each other, and we can help each other, and we can have a mutually beneficial relationship within the legal field.
Wonderful. And in this session, Justin, we like facing the actual truth. You are
Mhm.
a practitioner in the legal practice. You're an educator. You're educating paralegals. When do you think paralegals are dropping the ball? When do you think they are not doing things right?
Yeah.
And when do you think they need improvement? Because unless you tell them where they need improvement, they might continue doing the wrong thing or substandard work, and the lawyers will continue feeling like I can't trust them. So, what
Yeah.
areas of improvement do you want to talk to them about?
So I think it also goes back to the second part of your question about paralegals taking on law clerk roles. You have to take yourself seriously, and you have to also understand that roles like law clerk are not a step down; they are a step forward. You need to get in somewhere. You need to gain experience somewhere, and so perhaps taking away the stigma around becoming a law clerk as a paralegal is important because again, you need entry paths or entry points into the profession. And I feel like lawyer support or paralegal support is a great way to start. You need to humble yourself to realize that the benefits and the lessons you learn in those support roles will carry over into your own legal services practice. And so where I feel paralegals are dropping the ball is expecting too much immediately after graduation. And I think lawyers do this too, right? Everybody graduates, they get licensed, it comes in the mail, then and the next day is kind of like, okay, what's next, right? All the high, all the and the stress and anxiety has that that peak point, and then all of a sudden it's all over, and now you're left to your own devices to figure out your pathway forward. And so I think paralegals need to just realize that, look, you won't always be able to start where you want to start, but that doesn't mean you can't get where you want to get, right? And so perhaps humble yourself, take yourself seriously, uh, take that time to orient yourself under leadership, under guidance, whether it's in a law clerk role or as a support paralegal in a firm, and then execute your future plans that way. And just to go back about your point, when speaking about how lawyers perceive paralegals, we call it and JP kind of coined this phrase, it's the Angela Merkel effect, in the sense that because of the popularity of suits, a lot of people see paralegals in their traditional support role, not realizing that Ontario is the forefront of this great experiment called regulation of paralegals or licensing of paralegals for access to justice. And so that kind of speaks to the preconceived notions of what paralegals are. But every single time that I judge at a mooting competition, every single time that I speak with lawyers or engage or train law students, uh, I become a pathway to a new understanding towards what the paralegal is. And I feel like once we all do that and we all realize our position and the importance of such a role, that the entire legal system will accept us.
Wonderful. And I've heard you saying that be humble to learn so people
Mhm.
can teach you and all that. But I also want to add something about confidence. People
Sure.
need to be confident. And
Yes.
this is what I tell. I've even had lawyers, Justin, who went to their associate, their junior associate, and they don't feel confident enough. And I tell them, but you went to college for all these years. You're better
Yeah.
than me. You're better than everybody out there.
Yeah.
So people should be confident because they have gone to college, they have been certified, they have passed the exams. Now it's just being confident and then
Well,
learning from there.
yeah, and I'll just add that even being humble is a form of confidence, right? It's
Yeah.
understanding that you've done all the work, that you are in a position that you are in, but being able to humble yourself shows a certain level of confidence that you're willing to start at the bottom to work your way up, right? When I first started, again, I was at the very bottom of the totem pole. But I
Yeah.
was able to work my way up, right? I think it's important for individuals to be able to realize that your confidence is not directly linked to to immediate success. That confidence is a durational thing. And so the more confidence you have, the longer you can survive in a role that you may think is beneath you, but you will grow to where you want to go.
Awesome. And so then attached to that, because I know several paralegals want to have their own practice, to own their own office, yeah,
Yeah.
please help us to walk them through when they should be ready to start their own work, when should they have a brick and mortar office? Because
Yeah.
it all costs. You are passed through that. So please
Yes.
tell them what the skills do they need to say, I'm now ready to start my own practice.
So that's a great question because a lot of people, as I said, they graduate and they want to hit the ground running. They want to get the office, they want to get the suits, they want to get the car, and that's all great. But what you're doing is creating overhead that's unnecessary. And then all of a sudden now you're waking up just to pay debts back, right? You put it all on the credit card or you put it all on the money that you borrowed from the bank to start your business. That's not going to be tenable going forward. What you want to do is create as little overhead as possible in the very beginning. A lot of what we do now is virtual. Court appearances are virtual. Disclosures being shared virtually. Filings are being done online. And so understanding that a lot of what you can do is from your very own home and your desktop is going to save you a lot of money. Why pay two internet bills? Why pay two phone bills? Why pay an employee that, for instance, you're just trying to start out yourself? Why encumber yourself with the responsibility of paying somebody else's wages or life the source of their livelihood, right? And so again, this comes back to humbling yourself, realizing your position. And once you've done that and you have confidence in yourself and you've humbled yourself, you can start thinking, how can I save money? There's things like office sharing, like WeShare or Regis, that allow for you to utilize a fully furnished office for a period of time if you want to impress a client, or if you want to have a meeting, or if you want to do certain virtual court appearances from that office, right? And so why in the very beginning, put all this debt or all this responsibility on your shoulders when you should be waking up excited about the day, excited about what the possibilities could be, not about waking up and figuring out how you're going to pay back this or how you're going to pay back that. So my advice to anybody that's willing that wants to start on their own is to try to cut back on all of the things that we traditionally know to be, as you said, brick and mortar or traditional office um, direction and move towards the reality of our current time. The LSO allows for client verification online. The This was done during COVID. It was removed for a little bit, but then reinstituted about a year and a half ago. And so it's important that we operate within our time, right? And technology is an aid, right? You can use AI to help you, right? As opposed to hiring a law clerk or a assistant or a front desk person. There's many different ways AI helps. It can be I think nowadays they actually have phone numbers that you can set up so that AI takes in the client's call as a secretary, right? It can aid you in preparing factums or preparing book of authorities or getting your legal arguments in order. But you must be, of course, careful in the way you use AI. I've done a whole thing with the Law Society about that, as far as teaching paralegals how to responsibly use AI. But the point I'm trying to make is quite simple. Don't start by burying yourself in a heap of debt and then your entire career is digging out of that debt. Nobody wants that. And then burnout comes a lot quicker to those who wake up every day looking upwards over a mound of debt that they've incurred.
And that's great. Thank you so much for letting us know of that. So we are coming to an end, Justin, and you have really shared great information, but I wanted to talk to you about resources for paralegals.
Yeah.
You can find resources outside LSO. You can find resources outside all the associations, all the town halls, because as I've said, paralegals will need an accountant to file their taxes,
Yes.
right? Paralegals will need somebody to build their website. We
Yeah.
have all those resources within the Entrepreneur Nation. I have myself helped several paralegals to get internship. I hope you know that because I know so many lawyers. I'm connected to about 10,000 lawyers, if not more.
Good.
So if you need anything for your paralegals, if you need resources, just ask me. I'm not trying to say that all the paralegals should message me because I won't be able to. But if
Yeah.
you find great people that you feel need resources, I can always help. So, what other resources do you think they need? Reach out
Yeah.
to us.
So firstly, I appreciate that. One of the things we do at the Paralegal Townhall is try to create these bridges, these connections with outside resources that can be essentially part of our mandate, which is to provide knowledge and experience. And some of that knowledge and experience comes from outsourcing things like bookkeeping or the financial regulations aspect of our profession, which is quite extensive. But there's also, like as you said, we have the Paralegal Town Hall. There's the Ontario Association of Black Paralegals for those of us that are a part of the Black and well, I guess Black legal community. There's the Ontario Paralegal Association, the OPA, which has been founded and established for some time now, well before we did what we're doing. There's also the York Regional Paralegal Association, headed up by Judith and Samantha Glass. And so there's many different ways in which individuals can find resources, can find that helpful hand forward. They just have to Google it and go out there and look for it. And if they find us, we're here. We're here to help. I'm doing more to raise awareness. I'm doing your show, for instance, to help raise awareness to perhaps a paralegal sitting at home right now had no idea we existed or that you provide these resources, right? And so if that is the one thing that people take away from this episode today, then I'm a happy man.
Exactly. And even those who want to start their own practice, that's entrepreneurship already, right?
Yeah.
We can teach, they can learn entrepreneurship from us. And so we are here for you. Thank you so much. If you think of any other topic that you want us to talk about, please let me know and we'll be happy to bring you back, Justin.
Thank you. I appreciate that open door policy.
Exactly. And our viewers, thank you so much for watching. We'll keep bringing you these wonderful professionals to speak to. Thank you, our viewers.